everyone. So earlier this week, some very big news dropped. The National Stationery Show, which has existed since 1945, is being retired, and New York Now is reimagining its entire approach to the category. On the one hand, it's really sad for all of us who spent, the last decade or two, not just at NSS, but planning for it, talking about it, reminiscing about it, and then talking about it some more. So while it's sad to see a chapter close, and make no mistake about it, it was heartbreaking yesterday to read friends on social media reacting to the news. I do overall think the reimagining is really a good thing. While the co-location of NSS to New York Now was done with the best of intentions, I think having some stationery brands in NSS and some in the next section was confusing to both exhibitors and attendees. By removing those section separations and reapproaching this vast category with fresh eyes, and make no mistake about it, this is a vast category. Approximately a quarter of New York Now gift exhibitors are stationery brands. So by reapproaching it, Emerald can create something really special that reflects what's happening in stationery now. I'm really excited to learn more, and I'm even more excited to see it for myself in February. Which brings me to my guest today, Joni Lewis of Visual Treats Design Studio. I've known Joni for years. She is a little maker out of Virginia with a fabulous range of handmade product, including cards, sachets, cashmere wearables from rescued sweaters, as well as a lot of one-of-a-kind creations that are, or rather were, the kind of amazing things you would stumble across once upon a time as you were wandering the aisles at trade shows. Joni is actually something of a Renaissance woman. She is a storyteller and huge fan of the NPR show, The Moth. She's had 2 appearances on it. First, she won the Washington DC StorySLAM, and then she was invited to compete against 9 other winners in a Moth GrandSLAM at the Lincoln Theater in New York City. You can access those on her site, on her events page. They're hysterical. But Joni also has some great stories to share about her experiences at New York Now, which are not only great stories in and of themselves, they also speak to basically the magic of New York Now and how it was able to help her take her brand from the craft circuit to the national wholesale market. And also about how every minute there, even your last hour before packing up to go home, has great potential. And also how you never know where that casual acquaintance you made that's down the road from you where that can lead. But I'll stop being cryptic now, and I'll let Joni take it away after this. Hey, paper peeps. So by now, many of my listeners are familiar with the force of stationary nature, better known as Girl with Knife. But if you aren't, time to change all that. From the first moment I spied her booth at her New York Now trade show debut in 2019, I was smitten with this cutting edge range that the world was calling out for. We all just didn't know it yet. Everything is nimbly collaged to life, slice by careful slice by the talented and exquisite Alicia Castaldi. This stylish collection of cards, journals, and notepads that have sprung to life under this fashionista's exacting knife is sharp, snarky, sleek, and occasionally very sweet, just like that BFF who would love to hear from you right now. For that reason, whenever I get my hands on Girl with Knife merchandise, I hoard it and use it most sparingly. Alicia recently launched Gift Wrap, and if you're already a fan of her range, you're familiar with her patterns and quality, but these super thick sheets elevate any gift from off the rack to atelier. Her recent releases of Midnight Botanical, Rare Creatures, and Chasing Dreams bring the total styles that slay up to 10. And if you're like me and that you fall in love with a range and want to reside in that world, you're in luck. Alicia recently unveiled Knife House, which was one of the few good things I can think of that came out of 2020. that was when Alicia shifted her operation from LA to this newly renovated concept home in Palm Springs. This completely private, walled and gated estate features panoramic mountain views and countless luxe surprises. Take a tour through its magnificent blush pink doors at www.knifehousepalmsprings.com or find it on Instagram at Knifehouse Palm Springs. Good luck getting your jaw off the floor as you take in this perfect California adult playground. These glamorous digs are available for photo shoots, film projects, special events, and short-term rentals. But just as importantly, all that exquisite Palm Springs flora and fauna have inspired Alicia's soon-to-be-released journal and notepads. She tells me that they're also expanding into home decor, which I, for one, absolutely can't wait to see. So now that you've glimpsed this wonderful world, you need this cutting-edge lifestyle brand in your life. Find Girl with Knife in hundreds of shops across the U.S. and over half a dozen countries. Alicia and Girl with Knife have also been featured in New York Magazine, LA Business Journal, BuzzFeed, and of course, Stationery Trends. I've run her work there countless times. Alicia was one of our 10 designers to watch in 2020 and proceeded to live up to that designation when last May, 2 out of her 3 nominated cards took CHOP honors at the Noted and Noted virtual greeting card competition. Then, for our winter 2021 issue of Stationery Trends, Alicia designed the 10 designers to watch frontispiece for us. It is something else if you haven't seen it yet. Also, as of 2021, Alicia is represented by none other than the Daniel Richards showrooms in Atlanta and Dallas. Dan's eye is renowned in this biz, so his representing Girl with Knife is unsurprising, but it also means that this brand needs to be on your design radar stat. Check out this beguiling range at the recently refreshed girlwithknife.com. Right now, the theme is Season of Fierce, and I think we can all use one of those about now. I guarantee your stationery will slay. Joni, welcome to the Paperfold.
Yoo-hoo, thanks.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about Visual Treats Design Studio. How long have you been in business and what do you create?
I have been in business for real for a really long time. I started at the very end of the 80s, I guess, early 1990.
Wow.
And I make the meat and potatoes of my business is a line of handmade greeting cards. I also make a variety of other kooky things reinvented out of leftover materials, and my real love is vintage photos, so almost everything has something to do with photos.
I mean, your range is amazing. It seems like every time I go on your site, I find something
Oh.
new. I love like your repurposed jeans and like you're
Mm-hmm,
always doing
mm-hmm.
something really interesting and different, and it's very inspiring.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. So you're you're something of a Renaissance designer. You've had 2 appearances on NPR's The Moth. You won the Washington DC StorySLAM. You were invited to
Yes.
compete against 9 other winners in the Moth GrandSLAM on the stage of the Lincoln Theater. You can see the 2 appearances in the events section on your site, which I will be linking to in the liner notes. But I think you have another story here today to tell our listeners. I'm just going to read back what you wrote me when you were writing that you wanted to come on the Paperfold. Quote unquote, New York Now was a complete game changer. I was still doing the craft show circuit and was accidentally awarded a booth without even asking for it. Complete mistake on their part, but they honored the offer anyway. So I did the show just as a see what happens. I have a great story about taking my very first franchise order that literally turned me into a real business. It's amazing. Tell me more.
Well, the craft show circuit was, I've always made greeting cards, but I used to also make custom photo transfer pillows. And
Whoa.
so the craft show, that was my craft. Back then the cards were more like, just extras, but the custom photo pillow was the thing.
Hmm.
And the craft show wasn't exactly thriving for me anymore because of HGTV. HGTV had just come out, and
Hmm.
that was kind of leveled the playing field because everybody knew how you made what you made.
Right.
It was like a DIY every day, and the secret was out of the bottle
Hmm.
about how I made what I did. So I was looking around for other options, and somebody had said you should do the gift show. And New York seemed like a big deal, and so I back then you applied for a show booth
Sure. It
with
was. It was probably New York International Gift Fair at that point, right?
oh yeah, I mean it was back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. It was really the probably the first one I did was maybe in 1999.
Sure. Okay.
Um, So yeah, I just sent them a letter of inquiry and said, I'm interested in doing the gift show. Could you give me some more information? And I got a letter telling me my booth number. And I thought, well, that was weird. They must be desperate. So when I asked for my friends around, is this normal? They were like, girl, there is a waiting list. There's a line of people in vans that show up just in case somebody doesn't show up. This has got to be a mistake. So I called and said, I'm not even sure if I want to do this. What gives? And the person who answered the phone said, what? And looked it up and said, yeah, huh. Wonder how that happened. Well, yeah, I mean, that's your booth number. If you want it, come on. So I decided that, everybody was pushing my back and said, yeah, 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 this is opportunity knocking. So I did the booth. It was tiny, the size of a billboard, and it cost a fortune. And I still had the craft shows to do. So this was wholesale, and I wasn't really wholesaling yet. Um, so I took a lot of good advice and did the booth, and took a fair amount of orders, and really wasn't sure, how I would make them. I just took the orders and then thought, okay, we'll figure this out after you get home. Um,
What were you
and so then
selling?
I found
Was
out
it
that the booth is yours. If you don't do it, somebody else gets your booth and you don't get it back. So once you get your foot in the door, you have the obligation and the responsibility to do 2 shows a year. So that kind of changed things too, because you have to budget for that. It's not. New York is a big deal.
It's a very big deal. What were you selling? Were you still doing the pillows, or was it
I
mostly
was
greeting
doing the
cards?
pillows, and I also took the greeting cards, and eventually I made sachets, which were kind of miniature versions of the pillows.
Hmm.
When I first started doing the pillows, it was before it was, Reaganomics.
Right.
$100 was nothing. And then there was, a giant recession. And so all of a sudden, $100 was an awful lot of money. So I knocked myself off and made a smaller version of the pillow, which was a custom photo sachet, and I did that for a lot of years too.
Wow.
And it was fun. It was so much fun to get to see other people's photos every day. Somebody else's photos arrived in the mail, because back then it was a real Pony Express. Stuff came in the mail. You sent stuff in the mail.
Like
There
they
was no.
physically sent you their family photos.
Yes, I've seen a gazillion brides, a lot of babies, and an awful lot of dogs, because it's what you want to commemorate.
Right,
Um,
right,
and it was a perfect fit product for catalogs. So the catalog could
right.
offer it as a custom service and then just feed it to me, and I drop shipped the product. So yeah, it was good. And then the cards were always sort of the sideline gig, and they were sewn too. So yeah, it was sort of a the advice I was given when I did New York was you can't just take one thing. You got to flesh it out into a line so
Right,
that people want to buy the whole line.
right.
Um, So yeah, I was backed up in the corner with my clipboard and my pen, taking orders, and it was great. Um, but yeah, so the order that put me on the map
Uh-huh.
for the cards wasn't from the first time I did the show. That came, a few shows in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I had a spinner rack of cards, and it was the last hour of the last day of the show. And you're tired and you're bored and you're starting to pack the booth up with your eyes. It's like, how fast can I get out of here? How long is this going to take?
Right. Absolutely.
And these five women tumbled into my booth. One of them commandeered my chair, telling me how tired they were, and they started looking at the cards and laughing and showing them to each other. And I was thinking, ugh, how long is this going to take?
Like this has been my life for 5 days. I'm ready to go home.
Yes, and the last day of the last hour is usually people who want to buy your product, your samples. And I thought, so I wasn't giving them my best. I had my game face on, but I wasn't really selling it hard.
Sure.
And they were asking questions, and I thought, oh, here we go. What's your minimum? Do I have to get 12? Can I just get 6? I was girding my loins for how this was going to go. And none of them were wearing badges. So I really did not know, who I was dealing with.
Right.
And so, they were handing the cards back and forth and giggling and, oh, look at this one. This one's the best. I love this one. So the woman in my chair ended up with 5 in her hand. And she hands me the 5 cards and says, we'll take 750 of each one. Here's my card. Let me know what we need to do to, start an account with you. And, I cannot even tell you. My jaw dropped all the way to the floor. My eyebrows went up to my hairline. And, I don't know if you want me to name names or tell you what it was.
I mean, I'm dying to know what store this is. So yes, if you're fine with it.
It's Paper Source.
Wow.
So it was my first franchise customer.
Okay. Wow.
And, they ordered the same 5 cards over and over and over, for years. And then, they would take it to committee and add 2 more cards for holiday, but whenever they placed an order for the cards, it was usually 500 to 1,000 of the same cards.
Sure.
So that turned me into a business with people that came here and helped. And, a Paper Source order would take us a week to make.
Sure.
Packing the box would take half a day. It was real.
Yeah.
It really made me feel like I was legitimate. This was no hobby. I really was a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that with a lot of the, bigger chains, they have rules on how you need to send in the cards, when they need to come in, how they need to be packaged.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't do it, then you get chargebacks. So it's a whole, which means they're going to deduct what they pay you. Correct? Is that right?
I guess. I never got in that. They certainly had a lot of requirements. I mean, everything had to be in a sleeve. Everything they had a barcode sticker that I had to put on the cards for them.
Sure.
I mean, it was all. But as a franchise, I just shipped directly to their warehouse location, and they took it from there.
Sure.
And I will say that Paper Source has always known what they were doing. They did not buy anything that didn't sell. I didn't ever get stuck with something that didn't work for them. I guess surely they got leftovers from holidays and stuff, but they really know their customer. Their buyers are always sharp, and they know what they're doing. Over the years, the buyers have changed a lot. I've dealt with a lot of different people, and their overall look has changed a lot from when this, like I said, this was,
Sure,
a very long time
sure,
ago.
sure.
But yeah, that was
Absolutely.
the put me on the map.
Absolutely. I mean, they came on the scene. They obviously had a lot of research. They knew what they were doing. But yeah, I feel like, and I love Paper Source. I love mine. I go in all the time. But they did sort of adapt to get that kind of maker vibe in the store with
Right.
the,
Well,
which is great. I love it.
the lady in the chair was the owner at the time,
Oh wow.
and she since has sold the company, and it has changed and expanded, huge compared to when they were just out of Chicago
Sure.
with one owner.
Mm-hmm.
But the moral of the story is, and I tell this every time I do a trade show, the last day, the last hour, I always tell my neighbors, okay, it is not over until the fat lady sings. Let me tell you about what happened to me on the last day. Until they roll this rug up, we are still here to sell.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big deal.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. And I'm so glad you came here and now we have it documented to be listened to endlessly. So,
History.
yeah, exactly. This needs to be saved for posterity. So, obviously New York now has shaped your business and obviously you're a great storyteller. I know of at least one other great tale for you to close today. Paper Chronicles readers already know this. How did it come about that you spent a vacation creating product for the set of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
It was also 100% because of the New York Gift Show.
Oh, wow.
You spend a lot of time cheek to jowl with your neighbors. The booths are, it's not like it's an iron curtain, it's a very thin, cheesy nylon curtain. So you get to know your neighbors really well, especially if you are in the same spot for years and years and years.
Sure.
And one of my next door neighbors, my booth neighbor, is a woman named Mary Fellows, and she had a business called Little Mary Fellows. She made organic baby stuff, um, bibs and bedding and beautiful
Swaddles,
things.
and I'm sure it's gorgeous.
She works as a set designer for movies and TV.
Mm-hmm.
And so, years after we weren't neighbors anymore, because she went back into the movie business, she was working as a set designer for Mrs. Maisel. And the Miss Maisel was going to the Catskills, and it was Mary's job to make a Catskills mountain gift shop for when she checks into the hotel at the Catskills. So Mary contacted me and she said, hey, remember those custom order postcard sachets that you used to make? Can you make some if I send you the graphic of this fake Catskills lodge? And what other things do you think you could make that would have been, in this lodge? And I was thinking, okay, Stuckey's, beaded belts, pecan logs,
Wow. Yeah.
what are the things you buy,
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about pennants that would be on a big pencil, all those kooky things,
Right.
that would have been in a gift shop. And so I said, well, yeah, sure, I'll be glad to make these sachets. I don't make them anymore, but I'll make them for you. Um, and she said, great, I need them on Monday. And, that really did kind of step up the volume for the whole thing. And so I didn't know at the time how they would figure into the story or if you would even see them. And you do not see them. I don't know if I ended up on the cutting room floor. I can tell you when you would have been able to see them. And no, she does not pick one up and say, golly, boy, do I love these visual treats custom photo sachets.
But you would be retired. I couldn't get you on my podcast if she said that.
The thing that warms my heart is that Mary ordered a bundle of them because at the end of the season, they give out leftover props and things in swag bags to the people that worked with the team. So I still feel that somewhere one of my sachets ended up in the hands of one of the people in Mrs. Maisel. But mine was far from a featured product or anything that anybody would have said, "Hey, I got to get me some of them sachets." But it was so much fun, and just figuring out how things work, and everything with TV has to be done yesterday.
Right.
So that's how my vacation got cut short, and I ended up making a whole bunch of sachets. And the other thing we made were like little, remember those autograph photo books you would take? That was the other thing we made with the same logo.
That like your friends would sign.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From camp.
So how good at sewing is your husband?
Not. But he is a supreme expert at chopping paper and stuffing sachets. And it was fun to press him into service. It kind of gave him an appreciation for, what I do, how it's done. He did not get to say no. It was, we got to do this. Who else do you see but you and me? We got to do this.
This is happening. Yeah. We're doing it. And there's no discussion.
He has the job. He doesn't want to work for me. So, it was fine. We did fine. It did not take, we did not have, but like 3 or 4 days total to get it all done. So it was fun. It's nice to know at my age that I do still have an overdrive speed.
Right. Like, thank goodness you were called into action so you could make sure that all the parts were operating correctly.
Yeah. In my head, I could still waitress and work a double, but I'm not really sure I can. So, it was good to sort of test it and find out how fast can you sew? How quick can you do this? Can you really do it? What does overnight really mean? Is it going to get here the next day? It's good. It's good to turn the heat up sometimes and, make sure you're still on your game.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it's really cool that, the sachets ended up as probably the ultimate souvenir for people who, were part of the show. You never know where they're going to turn up. Who knows? Maybe in 20 years, they'll show up on an Antiques Roadshow. Someone has what,
What a great idea. I love that.
Like my mom did sound for this show, and I found it in her attic, and I'm wondering if it's worth anything.
What a beautiful thought. That's so much better than I'm ending up at the thrift store. So yes, I love that notion. They sell that stuff as a precious antique. And by then surely the Whitney will have done a retrospective of my work, and I will be, like a big brand that everybody will be.
Oh, you got one of her sachets from her, from the 2010s.
The legend.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I hope you've had that insured.
Oh, well, no autographs, please. Really. The paparazzi, it's brutal. Yeah. It's a good dream.
So I guess with all that said, with, New York now and, and even New York International Gift Fair, its previous incarnation, having shaped your business, they have not announced the New York Now Winter 2021 dates. When they do, are you going to try to go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And can you give us a sneak peek of what you're working on?
Well, what a hoot. What a question. At this point, every day is a new list of maybes. Who would have ever thought anybody needed a mask? By then I may be making rocket scooters. Whatever it is that we need. That's kind of the beauty of craft, is you have to reinvent what you do for what's actually necessary in the world.
Sure.
So, I think I'll say stay tuned to see what the answer would be to that. I know I will always make cards. Mm-hmm. And people that say, oh, nobody sends cards anymore are wrong. People with good manners are always going to send a card. Fingers crossed that the post office cooperates.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, on the plus side, we do have, an audience of the most captive audience in the history of the world, probably. So, they're wanting to reach out to people they're missing. So that's a plus.
Right, right. Just don't lick the envelope.
Right. I mean, there's never been a better argument for washi tape, of which I am a huge fan.
Yes, yes, you're exactly right.
So, but you're right. I mean, with the mass, I mean, you're one of your, aside from cards and vintage images, I mean, you work with a lot of vintage textiles. I mean, you could do a lot of really interesting things with masks. So,
What I have been doing is making them. I mean, I think everybody with a sewing machine has been pressed into service to make masks. And I'm not gonna, I'd never say never, but I'm not gonna say I'm going into the mask business.
right.
It just, I'd rather stay funny. I don't want to go into, it feels like profiting off of misery to me. I just don't want to become a mask maker. But I've made a gazillion of them because people need them and they want them. And that's sort of how I've been spending my summer vacation this summer, is making masks.
Sure. But
yeah,
it doesn't
and
mean
making them out of other stuff. Cutting them up out of shirt sleeves because you want them to be soft. It's on your face, so scratchy new fabric isn't something you'd want to make a mask out of.
I mean, I think who I would want, I mean, having a mask, as long as there's not holes in it, out of, vintage denim, it would be beautiful.
Yep.
Like, I could totally see that, or embroidery on it. Like, I'm guessing that that's kind of, definitely when the shows do come back, that's probably going to be, something you see an awful lot of, is interesting takes on masks. So,
and I'm wondering about gloves.
Yeah. I mean,
are gloves going to make a comeback?
I know.
Because
I can't figure it out.
They're protective in another way, as well, and not rubber ones, but pretty ones, ladylike, gloves. So people are going to start to wear gloves.
Right. Like, can you will someone start making just a set of gloves that you keep in your car, and you only put them on to go in the grocery store to handle it, and you just take them off as soon as you're done, and they're your fun gloves. You throw them in the washing machine I'm thinking that we'll see a lot of that. And of course, like we were discussing before we started recording, that's one of the great things about going to New York now. You always leave feeling like, or I always did, feeling like I really had my finger on the pulse of what was happening and what, like, the next 6 months in retail roughly are going to look like.
Yes, I am a textbook introvert, so I usually leave feeling very overstimulated. I have seen way too many products. I just want to come home and close my eyes and breathe for at least a week. But you can't. It sneaks into your brain, all the things you've seen, and you now, with a camera on your phone, you can snap a picture of stuff, and even the street is so inspiring for what you're going to do next when you get home.
Oh, absolutely.
And the gift show is, sitting at the gift show on the worst, slowest day is still the best people watching on the planet. Oh. You can't believe what goes by on people's feet, on people's backs, what their hair looks like. It is just a constant parade of stimulation to look at people at the gift show.
I agree.
I really am gonna miss that in August. There's a part of me that's like, "Ooh, good, I don't have to go." But then there's this other side of me that is really wondering, what's it going to be like without that recharge of the batteries kind of feeling.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I do miss the notion that I will be able to connect physically and verbally and eye to eye with my longtime customers. The gift show is sometimes the only time we actually talk, and it's important to hear, what are people looking for? What are they asking you for? What do I need to be making? Because I'm not out in your world.
Right.
tell me what I need to know.
Right. I mean, plus the face-to-face, I mean, you're getting a lot of verbal non-cues as well when you're meeting with clients and potential clients and so on. So, you read a lot about what they're looking for, what they're not looking for, what directions to go in. I know we're all missing it.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, listen, I cannot thank you enough for coming to the paper fold, and I am really, really looking forward to seeing you in your booth in person in 2021 at the Winter New
Me
York Now.
too. Me too. And hopefully my hair will look better than it does today. That that will be one improvement to look forward to in a big way.
Oh yeah.
But no, this was great fun. I'm happy I muscled my way on.
Oh my
So thanks
gosh.
for letting me.
All right, muscle
Cool.
away. Thank you again.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, Paper Peeps. So Kitty Meow Boutique has been a fabulous client of mine for a while now. So hopefully many of my listeners are familiar with not just the dazzling wares from this Chicagoland house of paper, but also its amazing founder, a force of nature better known as Catherine Hildner. This mom of two, with another scheduled to arrive soon, has created a most intoxicating stationery range. I define the Kitty Meow aesthetic as polished and very smart. Think of the sharpest outfit you own that you feel like $1,000,000 in, but in stationery form. Everything from typography to envelope choice comes together to pack a most enticing punch. But this range is not just about the surface. It's about honoring those connections with those we care about most. And you'll see once you visit kittymeowboutique.com that the wares are divided into witty and sweet because, as Catherine puts it, sometimes you feel a little saucy and sometimes you don't. But Kitty Meow Boutique is so much more than just another pretty face in the marketplace. The empowering messaging found on her cards, invitations, journals, coasters, art prints, and enamel pins elevates the range into something that makes you feel not just seen, but good about yourself too. Everything is essentially a little lift, visually and emotionally, for not just those you love, but you as well. Not only is Kitty Meow available for your personal shopping needs, it's also available wholesale to all those shops looking for something new with which to excite their customers. She's on Fair. Visit kittymeowboutique.fair.com and get your shop started. Finally, I think what I love about Catherine most is that she is really all about living your best life, as you'll see for yourself beneath the education tab on her site. She offers KMB Signature Collective, a mastermind for women in the product-based business world who have a love for paper and giftable items, who have an idea and a plan, but need guidance and support to be successful in their efforts. I so agree with Catherine. It's so important to be surrounded by like-minded women and leaders who are willing to put in the work to lift each other up. For that reason, it's not a course. It's a friggin' transformation, people. And Catherine has also started my second favorite podcast, Dreams to Plans, with another brilliant force of nature, my girlfriend Renee, to elevate your daydreams to actual, tangible plans. Oh, and if you're on Clubhouse, follow Kitty Meow so you can tune in to her weekly room Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called Small Business Savvy, Insider Secrets You Need to Know. I checked it out for myself last week, and it was just the dose of inspiration and confidence my day needed. So get those good vibes going at kittymeowboutique.com and tell them Sarah sent you. Thank you so much, Joni, for dropping by the Paperfold. You heard it here first. The show is not over until they roll that last rug up. I have to say, I was expecting Nike to come out with really cool, sleek swimming masks. I was expecting Apple to come out with one that would charge your AirPods, and none of that has happened yet. But I do know for sure that I will see some great takes on masks, gloves, and who knows what other kind of safety devices that none of us will be able to live without when New York Now opens its doors again next year. Finally, I just want to close by repeating what I said in the first episode. If you have something to share with this community, please reach out to me like Joni did. As August approaches, I think we are all really going into high gear, missing these summer shows and all the inspiration and connection they bring. Yes, by coming on this podcast, you are putting yourself out there, which can be really hard and really scary. But in the end, it brings us all together, and that's a really good thing. So if you like what you are hearing, please subscribe and give me a good rating. And much more importantly, please stay well.